And I think when you look at Everton, they've got to be seriously worried now. There's been a lot of conversation about Everton being too big to go down, but people might have said the same about the likes of Sunderland, Leeds when it happened to them, even Villa at a time. They're just not getting a run of form together. They've won 3 games all season. That's awful for Everton. You can't anticipate that they're going to pick up enough points to get them out of this battle now. And really, if you're Burnley and you're Sean Dyche's Burnley, you're not worried about playing this Everton side. That is you going, right, there's the 3 points we need. And if you're Roy Hodgson at Watford, you're targeting that game as well. But Everton don't look like they're able to target any game right now because they look so shaken by what's going on.
Do you know what? They're kind of architects of their own downfall, though, because Richarlison played okay. He missed an absolute sitter, which should have really kept them in contention. But then the sending off was just, you expect better from Michael Keane, really, don't you? He's one of them senior players who you think, keep your head. Come on, that's just not the time. It was like in a time when the game was still on a bit of a knife edge as well. Killed it as a contest. So there's a bit of bad luck there, but their players are responsible for it fundamentally. And we've said at the start when Frank Lampard first came to the club, what a gamble he was, first of all. But then they've got players in their ranks who you thought might make a difference. So Dele Alli hasn't really done anything yet.
That's what I was going to say to you. You say it's a bit of luck, but when you've got someone like Dele Alli that you've brought in, and Lampard, honestly, you would have thought he would be the one to get the best out of him. He didn't even bring him on.
No.
Like, in a game where you need a win. I realised I also said that they've won 3 times this season. I think it's 3 times this year, sorry.
But I was going to say it's more than 3. I think it's only Burnley that are that bad.
I think they've won 7, but still, because they started the season quite well, Everton, really. And I think a lot of people would have had hope for them. But I think they're just exposing how weak their squad actually is now, because they brought Dominic Calvert-Lewin off in this game and didn't have a striker to replace him. Obviously, Van der Beek got injured and they had to play Holgate in centre midfield. But you have to wonder, well, why has Ali not come on? I do wonder whether they're not going to keep Ali after this season, because the deal that they've struck with Tottenham is dependent on how much he plays. So maybe they're already looking at it going, he's too expensive for us if we get relegated, because financially they're a state. Let's not forget that they're in the middle of building a new stadium. If they get relegated, this is really, really bad news for a club that's been signing players from Barcelona for the last few years on massive wages. It's not looking good for Everton at all.
No, are you worried about them from a relegation point of view then? If that's the way you're talking, it sounds like you are.
Oh, massively. Now that win against Newcastle has honestly saved them a lot of trouble. But
true,
I would not be surprised if both Burnley and Watford beat them, and that's what they've got to avoid, because I think now they've played the same amount of games as Burnley, but they've got 4 more points. So if Burnley beat them, that's a point all of a sudden. And I look at Everton's fixtures now. I don't know where their points are coming from. Where do they pick up points between now and the rest of the season? No. And they've got this awful disciplinary record of late. Lampard doesn't really seem to know what to do with this squad. And I don't necessarily think that's his fault. It's just a terrible squad. It's so mixed. It's not got any sort of coherent plan. And then he's brought in players in January that we don't see. Well, I know he's not the best. I've seen him at Villa. He's not great, but they've not even used El Ghazi yet. And if you're struggling to score goals, try him. I don't know. I won't be surprised if Everton fall into it now, to be honest. I could see Burnley getting out of it.
Do you know what? I think based on the fact that Burnley have been here before, based on the fact that Watford have been here before, Hodgson's been here before, this is new territory for Everton. This is new territory for Lampard. I absolutely think you're right. I think it only takes a defeat against one of those teams for them to suddenly start thinking, we're in trouble. Because I don't think they are. I think they're in a bit of denial about it. I think Lampard is.
And you talk about that squad and people talk about, that squad's too good to go down and things. People who aren't Everton fans and probably don't watch the club too closely would talk about them being too good. But I think the telling thing is, if they did get relegated, which players would move straight back to the Premier League? You'd probably have Richarlison would get a big move. Dominic Calvert-Lewin would get a move. Short of that, are there any others? Maybe Pickford if he wanted to leave, and maybe Yerry Mina?
Definitely Pickford, yeah. Someone would take Dele Alli because Spurs wouldn't keep him, that's for sure.
I don't know. Maybe he'll find that the Championship's got to be his next step, because he's had this chance to move to another Premier League club right at the bottom of the league, and it's not working there either. He's not looked too bad when he's played for him. I don't really get what's going on there.
It's so crazy. Like you say, too good to go down on paper, but it's just a bit of a mess of different managers' philosophies and signings. A bit like Man United in some ways, where each player has been spent a lot of money on. They're on high wages, and it could cripple them if they went down.